What if I told you that a narrow strip of water, just 2.8 kilometers wide at its tightest point, controls nearly one-third of global trade? And if it shuts down, the world doesn't just slow down, it chokes. The Strait of Malacca lies between Malaysia, Indonesia, Sumatra Island, and near Singapore. It forms the shortest maritime link between the Indian Ocean and the South China Sea, leading into the Pacific Ocean. It is the main artery connecting East Asia to the Middle East, Africa, and Europe. Every year, approximately 100,000 vessels pass through, carrying nearly 20 to 30% of global trade and approximately 15 million barrels of oil per day. That is more oil than passes through the Suez Canal. Countries that depend on it: China, which imports nearly 80% of its oil via this route; Japan, South Korea, even energy flow towards India. This isn't just a sea lane, it is the fuel line of the global economy. Former Chinese President Hu Jintao gave it a name. He called it the Malacca Dilemma. Why? Because if the strait is blocked, China's economy could collapse within weeks. And here is the twist: the strait is vulnerable. It is a narrow passage, there is heavy congestion, it is surrounded by multiple sovereign states, and lies close to major naval powers. In a conflict scenario, this choke point becomes a weapon. Unlike the Strait of Hormuz, the Strait of Malacca has never been fully blocked in modern history. But during World War II, Japan controlled it, cutting Allied supply routes. In 2000s, it became the world's piracy hotspot. Back in the early 2000s, this wasn't just a trade route, it was a hunting ground. Pirates, organized, fast, and ruthless, operated like ghosts. They didn't attack randomly, they studied routes, tracked ships, waited for the perfect moment, then struck. In an incident, a tanker was hijacked, repainted and renamed to avoid detection, and the crew held hostage for days. Insurance rates soared, global companies panicked, navies were forced to respond because this wasn't just a crime, it was a threat to global supply chains. Today, piracy is reduced, but the lesson remains. If chaos returns here, the world feels it instantly. And even today, a single shipwreck or collision could choke traffic for days, meaning it hasn't been blocked, but it is always one crisis away. The Strait of Malacca is where global powers collide. The United States Navy patrols nearby waters. China is building alternatives like the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor or CPEC and investing in pipelines to Myanmar to bypass Malacca. Why? Because whoever controls or threatens Malacca can influence global trade, energy security, and war outcomes. If Malacca shuts down, ships must reroute via Lombok Strait or Sunda Strait. But here is the cost. It means more than 1,000 kilometers extra distance, delays in global supply chains, massive spike in oil prices, and economic shock waves worldwide. This isn't a regional problem, it is a global crisis trigger. The Strait of Malacca is a critical 800 kilometers long maritime choke point linking the Indian and Pacific Oceans, facilitating roughly one-third of global trade and 80% of China's oil imports, making it a central arena for great power rivalry. It is heavily contested, with China seeking to secure energy routes, while the US, India, and regional powers monitor and balance rising Chinese influence. Approximately 80% of the China's maritime trade and oil pass through this narrow, easily blocked waterway, which is dominated by US naval influence. This dependency is seen as a major vulnerability by Beijing. The US monitors the area and maintains security, acting as a potential check on China's access, particularly through its alliances with regional countries. India's Andaman and Nicobar Islands, located near the strait's entrance, allow India to monitor and potentially disrupt vital sea routes for China, increasing its strategic relevance. China is pursuing alternatives to bypass the strait. Southeast Asian nations often manage the area through joint exercises while navigating territorial disputes into the South China Sea, attempting to balance relations with both the US and China. The strait remains a petri dish for modern power competition involving maritime surveillance, naval posturing, and infrastructure development to control access to East Asia. The Strait of Malacca teaches us something deeper. Power today isn't just about weapons, it's about control of flow. Flow of oil, flow of goods, flow of influence. And in that sense, this narrow strip of water is more powerful than many nations. Empires rise on land, but the future it sails through choke points. And the Strait of Malacca is the one the world certainly cannot afford to lose.